The 42nd Oregon Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony is supported by Oregon Sports Action, Sunset Athletic Club, Sport Oregon, the McTarnahan Family Trust, and Willamette Valley Track and Field. It's the annual gathering of the great names and faces of Oregon sports, living legends and the coaches who inspired them, fan favorites and tall tales. The class of 2023 is one of the most accomplished ever. We are at the DoubleTree Llyod Center in Portland for the 42nd induction ceremony of the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame. 8 new individuals and 1 very special team. Let's meet them all now. Here is your host, Portland media legend and a member of the Hall himself, Dwight James.
Thank you very much, but please save your applause for people who deserve it, okay? I just want to say it's going to be a difficult night because we're going to be eating as we do the program, and it gets everybody out of here quicker, and so we like that. So try to not make too much noise while people are being honored and talking and all that. It just works out better for everyone. I want to sincerely welcome everyone tonight. We have a great class of inductees, people who, some of them probably should have gone in a long time ago, but people with tremendous resumes, people who really deserve to be here. And their honors are tremendous, heartwarming in many cases. And it's a special night for me because I know an awful lot of these people and have known them for a long time. So be patient with me because I'm an emotional guy, and if I cry, it's not because I'm having leg pains or anything, which I'm having anyway. But anyway, I will move on with the program now, and I'd like to introduce to you the president of the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame, Chuck Richards.
Well, this, again, is our 42nd special evening. I want to say it's interesting seeing folks year after year and the depth and breadth of athletics in this state and all the significant contributions many of you have made in this room. It just warms my heart to see so many people and so many different sports and activities over so many years. And if you'll be introduced to the folks tonight that are being inducted, and congratulations to those. And their stories are terrific. And I want to say congratulations also to the students that received the McTarnahan scholarships. And I think some are here, are they not? And Scott McTarnahan, do you just want to raise your hand? I don't know where you are. I know you're in the room somewhere. Right over there in the corner, and thank you for that. I want to introduce some of our board members, and chairman of the induction ceremony tonight is Mike Rose. Mike, do you want to stand up? There he is. Thanks, Mike. He's ably assisted by Joel Roth. Thank you, Joel. And we have others in attendance. Most notably is Roger Goldengate. I haven't seen Roger, but I understand he's in the room. He came here from Florida. And hi, Roger. And Roger was a former timber back in the pre-timber days, right, Roger? Yes, he is quite the character. Blake Herring, George Graves. I don't know that they're here. Paul Lottie is on vacation. Drew Mahalik, he heads up our selection committee, and so it's quite a group that makes the choices each year. And so, Drew, nice to see you here, of course. Is Jeff Schrum here? He helps us with the technical matters, and then Greg Hitchcock takes care of our financial matters. Greg is not here tonight. I also want to recognize Bob Akamian, who's in the back there, heading up the audiovisual program. So thanks, Bob. He's done that for a few years for us. And Jack Elder is in the room, and he's a loaned executive to our Hall of Fame, and he contributes a lot as a sponsor. Hi, Jack. And speaking of the things Jack does, he's sort of the curator of our collection, which is currently housed at the Oregon Historical Society's warehouse. So we are looking for a home, 2,000 square feet, plus or minus, that we can possibly buy, long-term lease, whatever terms you can negotiate with Jack, basically is it. But if you know of a space, primarily on the east side, I think, it would be great. So let us know, and you know where to find us. I'd like to introduce Jim Edsel and Kristen Spear. Will you two stand up, please? Kristen, I want to embarrass you. So they're with Sport Oregon. Jim is the president and CEO, and Kristen is his able assistant in I would guess, the development director. Do I have that right? And Kristen is also an awesome tennis player, and I get to see her do that now and then because I'm associated with the Sunset Athletic Club, and she's a member. But they are going to be hosting the induction ceremony next year for the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame. So it'll be on their plate, and they've got big plans, so it should be a terrific event moving forward. Let's see. I want to share two quick things. One, there's an inductee tonight that essentially I grew up with. It's nice to come full circle, but I have I had an aunt and uncle and a group of cousins that lived in Roseburg on Lilburn Street. And we go down there to visit, and lo and behold, there's this lady across the street that was pretty darn athletic. It's a 2-year-old, a 10-year-old, and older. Her name is Sherry Sevall, and she has some of her relatives, brothers and sisters here tonight. But Sherry grew up to have great accomplishments both as an athlete and as a coach. And it's nice to have seen Sherry. So Sherry would take us across to the ball field at Roseburg High School. And we'd play all kinds of sports over there, and of course tennis was one of them. But Sherry was always the best athlete of the group by far, and so that was pretty fun. And then is LaMichael here? He's not. Quick story. I have a grandson that plays football. He's 10 years old. He plays on a team that's been undefeated. They say they have a new team in the league this year, and so that was fine. So they went out to see or start to play this new team, and they noticed when they went out there, the team was called the Mighty Ducks, and the parents were all dressed in duck gear. Well, this is a little odd because this is in Allen, Texas, and my son-in-law, he's a Duck fan actually, and he says. He went up to one of the parents and said, why the Mighty Ducks and all this Oregon Duck gear? And the parent pointed over, he's our coach. It was LaMichael James. That was over there on the sideline. They're undefeated, and they won the game. So also, I'd like to take just in a moment of silence in the trade of Damien. Really sorry to see him go. And also for the demise of the Pac-12. That's pretty sad in my mind, and I wish all the schools, especially Washington State and Oregon State, the best of luck. So I'm going to wrap it up, but I do want to say that I sometimes think of all the success athletics have had in this state, and it's tremendous, and I don't know that you would ever pause to reflect. But this state has had people like the Fosbury Flop, Dick Fosbury from Oregon State. Now you have Ryan Krauser, who's doing innovative things in the shot put world and gold medalist. You have people before like Don Scholander and others that won multiple gold medals. You have Steve Prefontaine. Those of you that follow the track and field program were treated, the mile is their highlight event. If you watch that event and you're a track and field fan, you had shivers going up and down your spine when they ran 3:43 for a mile, the fastest ever in America, American record, American soil record. Only one time ever faster, but never on American soil. That was pretty incredible. So the 4-minute mile has moved to 3:43. Pretty amazing. We've had 2 Heisman Trophy winners here, one Terry and Marcus. And so and the MAC Club is an institution in itself, and so I think, okay, state of Washington, they don't have a MAC Club. They have 0 Heismans. They don't have multiple gold medalists like Don Scholender and others, Mario Lagunas, to say add another name there. So it's pretty terrific place that we have here in Oregon, and a lot of breadth and depth, and you guys and gals make it so, and we'll see more of that tonight. So thank you, enjoy your meal, enjoy the evening, enjoy the celebration of sport in Oregon. Thanks, Dwight.
Thank you, Chuck. My pleasure now to introduce the banquet chairman. He's been doing this job for quite a long time now, the heart and soul of this event, Mike Rose.
Good evening. I first signed on with the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame back in 2006 as executive director. And since that time, as a member of the board of directors, I've chaired this event every year, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been a true labor of love for me, and watching family, watching friends of our inductees, and the other sports enthusiasts who support the hall, it's a real joy to be part of it all. I'll miss it a great deal. One of the unique aspects of sport is the stories behind the individuals and the teams. We love telling stories every year at this ceremony. The big game, the incredible play, the unbreakable record that is in turn broken. This year's group of new members includes multiple native Oregonians who rose from the neighborhood as heroes and leaders. Tonight we have a unique new sports story to tell. 3 Southeast Portland natives who played baseball for Cleveland High School in the early 1960s. Our own Dwight Janes, Tom Trebelhorn, also an inductee, and tonight they're joined by Mike Clopton, creating an incredible triple play sports story that cannot be equaled. 3 impressive careers. That is really what the state of Oregon Sports Hall of Fame is all about, in a nutshell. After tonight, Jim Etzel and his great staff at Sport Oregon will take over management of the Hall of Fame ceremony. We wish them great success going forward and look forward to helping and contributing to our talent and expertise. Thanks for now. Back to Dwight.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for all the hard work over the years, too, in putting this together. It's a labor of love, I'm sure. Every year, the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame awards up to 6 $3,000 scholarships to Oregon high school graduating seniors. Recipients are judged on several different criteria, including basic accomplishment in academics, athletics, and community involvement. Scholarship funds must be used at an accredited institution of higher education in the state of Oregon. Once again, thank you to Scott McTarnahan for providing the scholarship funding and for all the work on the committee, and a special thanks to Scott for his continued commitment to helping fund and funding, actually, the scholarships. It's a fantastic program, and it's an honor for the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame and the McTarnahan family. We really appreciate it. Here are this year's McTarnahan Scholarship Award winners.
Denali Bosco, North Marion High School volleyball, now attending Lynn Benton Community College and Oregon State University. Jordan Clements, Yamhill Carleton High School, football, wrestling, and rugby, now attending Oregon State Honors College. Carson Affolter, Tillamook High School, soccer, now attending Pacific University. Tamara Cervantes Carlos, Springfield High School, soccer, wrestling, and track and field, now attending Western Oregon University. Eli Watnick Wiseman, McDaniel High School, track and field, now attending the University of Oregon. Aaliyah Gaborialt, Harrisburg High School, softball, now attending Western Oregon University.
Here tonight, 4 of this year's winners. Let's have them come up and receive their plaques here on the stage. Denali Bosco. Jordan Clements. Tamara Cervantes Carlos. Eli Watnick Wiseman. Now it's time to honor the memories of our Hall of Fame members who have passed away since our last induction ceremony.
Bob Berry, inducted 1987, football. Dick Fosbury, inducted 1980, track and field. Kevin Freeman, inducted 1991, equestrian. Larry Mahan, inducted 1985, rodeo. Bill Shonley, inducted 1999, broadcasting. Charlie White, inducted 2006, OSU basketball. Dave Wilcox, 1983, football. Bob Zelinka, inducted 2012, OSU football and assistant coach.
Just this weekend, we received the sad news that former Oregon Duck and NFL tight end, remember he was all-world tight end, Russ Francis passed away in a plane crash in upstate New York at age 70. He was a native of Pleasant Hill, Oregon, and was welcomed to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame in 1993. All right, now it's time to meet this year's new inductees, the class of 23. We begin with a Portland household name and a Trailblazer favorite. His NBA career brought him to Rip City. His coaching skills kept him here and took him a whole lot farther.
Rick Adelman was present at the beginning and again during one of the great runs of Portland Trailblazers basketball. Adelman, the player, was selected by the Blazers in the 1970 expansion draft and played 3 years for the young franchise. It didn't take long after retirement for the Trailblazers to bring him back. Jack Ramsey hired him as an assistant coach in 1983. 6 years later, he was promoted to head coach mid-season and helped push the Blazers into the playoffs despite a losing record. Then came the 3 magical seasons starting in 1990. First, the breakthrough trip to the finals facing Detroit. The Trailblazers fought through grueling series with San Antonio and Phoenix to make their way out of the West. The 1991 and 92 teams were even more poised to win the championship, but fell short in heartbreaking series against the Lakers and the Bulls. Rick left Portland after the 1994 season with the highest regular season winning percentage of any Blazer coach, the most playoff games coached, and most playoff wins. He was not done with the NBA. The coaching carousel took Adelman to 2 seasons with the Warriors, 8 with the Kings, 4 in Houston, and 3 in Minnesota. Those teams made a total of 10 playoff appearances. When retirement came along, Rick had 1,042 career wins. That currently ranks him 10th all-time amongst NBA coaches. The basketball world has kept score. Coach Adelman was welcomed to the Basketball Hall of Fame and just this summer became only the 10th NBA coach to be honored with the Chuck Daly Lifetime Achievement Award. And he is leaving his own coaching legacy, daughter Kathy in the Oregon high school ranks, and sons RJ and David. David just won his first ring in June with the world champion Denver Nuggets. Today, we welcome Rick Adelman to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
Just so you know, that Basketball Hall of Fame is nothing compared to this one. Rick, you almost immediately after your playing career went to Chemeketa Community College to coach. Did you know while you were playing that you were going to end up being a coach, or was that just something that came up later?
No, I always wanted to coach, and actually I wanted to teach high school and coach. I found playing 7 years in the NBA, though, when I interviewed for jobs in high school in California where I was, they said I didn't have any experience. So I found out, well, that's not good, but I had two professors at Loyola who told me, you know, you should get your master's. And I did that. Thankfully I did that, because when Chemeketa's job opened up, it was just something that I had to have a master's to get the job, and I had it. And the old coach at Linfield, Ted Wilson, told me about it, and Larry Steele told me about it, who's here tonight. And Ward Paldanius was the athletic director, and he gave me a shot. And so we've been Oregonians ever since.
Now, you always look kind of calm on the sidelines, arms folded and everything. How did you pull that off?
I don't think I was very calm. A lot of referees would not agree with you on that at all. But it's just something that I think you have to. I learned from Jack Ramsey. I mean, Jack Ramsey was incredible. He gave me a chance for the NBA. I didn't know he was following our teams. Jack was so invested in his own job, but he followed our teams at Chemeketa, and he just taught me resiliency, that you had to be resilient in the NBA if you're going to succeed. And I still remember walking with him one night after a game in Denver. It was freezing, it was snowing, and Jack wanted to go for a walk. And all we had on was our sport coats. We walked for like 45 minutes and came back to a hotel, and I thought, my God. And the next morning, Jack's at the airport. That was before charters. And Jack was at the airport slapping the players on the back, being just jubilant. I said, that's incredible. That's not the guy I walked with last night. So I learned from him that you had to be resilient. You had to win the players. Players had to respect what you were doing, and then they would go along with you.
All right, there's still two Adelmans out there coaching right now, and I'm kind of curious. How much time do you spend following them, and do you give them any advice here and there?
No, they give me advice. No, Kathy is a great high school coach, and she's retired now for, I don't think, very long. And David, he tells me all the time, he says, you got to the two finals, I got to one and won it. And I said, well, I really appreciate that, David. So I hate to tell the people in Portland here, but I am a Nugget fan first, and will be. They have a great team, but no, it's been fun, and our older son, RJ, was also involved in it. So it's been fun watching them, and it's been great watching the grandkids play. They're all playing, have 4 granddaughters playing Division I basketball this year, so you know where my time is going to be.
Last year during the playoffs, you were honored in Denver with a very, very prestigious coaching award, the Chuck Daly Award. What did that mean to you, Rick, and what does that stand for?
It meant a lot, because the people who picked that award were guys I coached against, and just the ultimate names in basketball, you know, Phil Jackson, Pat Riley, you know, Lenny Wilkins, just went on and on. They gave me that honor, and excuse me, it was really, really special that it was in Denver during the finals that they gave that to me, where even though Denver lost.
That's the only game in the finals they lost.
Yeah,
right?
I blame that on my daughter, Kathy, because she went with me. And that year she went to 3 playoff games. She was 0-3. So it wasn't me, it was her. But no, it's something that was very special. And when you get an award like that, or you get an award like this, it makes you think of all the people that you were with throughout the years and all the impact that they had on your life. And tonight, Terry Porter's here, which he's got nothing else to do, obviously. And Larry Steele's here, Lloyd Neal's here, guys that I just brings back so many memories to me. So it's very special when you get these type of awards, and they seem to come when you're really old. Because I've got 3 of them now, and it's after 75. So I'm hoping I make it for 1 more if I can do it.
Well, it's better than the alternative, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Rick, I think we've talked long enough. I've kept you busy and strained your vocal cords. I think it's time to give you the actual award. Okay.
Yeah, this guy was responsible for writing a book. He says with me, but he wrote the book. He also was the reason that we lost that year. We got all the way, and we were supposed to win the whole thing. So it wasn't me, it wasn't the players, it was Dwight James. Long, hot winter.
All right, I've been saving this now for decades, but I would have sold a whole lot more books had you guys won. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Rick Adelman, one more time. I seldom say this when he's around, but I covered Jack Ramsey. Right here, this man right here is the greatest coach in Trailblazer history. He is. He didn't happen to have Bill Walton playing center for him. That was the only problem. All right, homegrown Oregonians are a central theme of today's ceremony. From Roseburg to Oregon State to Sunset High School, this highly motivated athlete and leader has never stopped succeeding or giving back.
She came of age at a time when sports options for girls were limited, but Sherry Sevall didn't let that slow her down. From youth and high school sports standout to 3-sport collegiate athlete to a career as beloved teacher and coach, Sevall made everything better wherever she took out a tennis racket or blew a whistle. The OSAA only offered 2 state championships for girls sports when Sherry was growing up in Roseburg. One was in tennis, where RHS already had a robust program. Sevall was part of the state championship doubles duo in 1965 when the Indians also won the state team title. Sherry was also traveling to other bigger tournaments out of state. Outside of organized high school sports, she excelled in softball. She selected Oregon State for her college education and found herself in the right place at the right time to be a 3-sport standout for Beaver teams. On the tennis court, she won the Pacific Northwest Championship 3 times and led OSU to 3 conference titles. Sevall was part of the very first Beaver volleyball team. In 1969, the Beavs were a perfect 21-0 and advanced to the Sweet 16. On the basketball court, Sevall was the leading scorer in both 1967 and 68. Next stop, Sunset High School as gym teacher and tennis coach. In 1974, her first Sunset team, the Ice Cream Gang, featured no seniors. That was just the beginning. From 1978 to 85, the Apollo's dual meet record was 110 wins and 1 loss. Sunset won 6 consecutive OSAA championships beginning in 1978. Those teams featured 1 individual champion and 6 double state champs. Sherry was recognized as Coach of the Year multiple times and was nominated twice for National Coach of the Year. She was featured as one of Sports Illustrated's Faces in the Crowd in 1985. Retirement came in 1999 after 27 years of teaching and a total of 19 seasons as Sunset's tennis coach. She now enjoys playing pickleball and traveling with her siblings. Today, we welcome Sherry Sevall to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
Congratulations, Sherry.
Thank you so much.
You know, you were an athlete at a time, and I remember this time so well. There were very few opportunities for women or girls in sports. How did you make the most of those situations prior to Title IX?
Well, I grew up in a small town, and I had two brothers, and we all loved sports, so I played sports every day as long as I could. And when I was 9 years old, our parents bought a house next to Roseburg High School in the tennis courts, and I'd never played tennis before, so I'd go every day after school and I'd watch the boys' tennis team. There was no girls' tennis team at that time, but I'd go watch the boys' tennis team, and they were a state championship team and had state championship players. And I'd go watch them play, and then I'd go practice what I learned from watching them against the school, Roseburg High School school walls. And you can't tell them that I'm the one that broke a couple windows, but they're probably still looking for me. But so then after that, I participated at Roseburg High School and played in the Northwest Collegiate Tennis tournaments circuit throughout the Northwest, and many RC or JC tournaments and national JC tournaments around the world, around the country. And then when I got to Oregon State, it was pre-Title IX. And I think of pre-Title IX as what high school athletes is for girls now, because we went from one sport to another. I played volleyball, basketball, and tennis. There were no scholarships, and so we just went from one season to another, just like high school kids do. So I'm very proud to say that our tennis team was very successful, our volleyball team was very successful, basketball was very successful, and our volleyball team was the first volleyball team ever at Oregon State. And we were inducted into the Oregon State Hall of Fame as the first female athletic team to be inducted just a few years ago. So.
Sherry, you're obviously a great tennis player. How did that translate, though, for you as a coach?
Well, I think the fact that I competed in so many tournaments over the years that I was able to identify when the girls were under a lot of stress in a match, and so when we'd coach between points or between games, I'd be able to help them out with their stress. If they lost a match, I was able to identify with them and help them with the disappointment of losing the match. And I think the fact that I had as much experience as I did gave me the credibility with the kids to know that I might know what I was talking about most of the time.
You stayed at Sunset High School for a long time.
Yes.
What was so special about Sunset?
Well, I would say that, number one, we had very supportive parents, which are very important. We had a supportive administration. We had a very supportive athletic department, wonderful student athletes, the girls on the team, and it just helped. It helped that there were a couple of athletic a tennis club and an athletic club in the area.
Oh, yeah.
And that some of them came from those clubs, and so were already tennis players when they got to us. But all of that was very good.
All right, I think it's time to give you a piece of hardware here.
Okay, and may I say just one more thing before I
Of course.
go? I'm not.
Yeah, you've got the mic in your hand. You
Okay,
can say
well,
whatever you want.
I'm not much of a speaker, but I have to share how I feel about this and the appreciation I have for the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame for this honor of a lifetime. And I want to thank my family members who are over there and have been so supportive of me my entire life with everything I've done athletically. I want to thank a few of my teammates are here from the years, and they're most not here, but they all had something to do with this honor too. So I thank them, and I thank the players that I coached. I haven't seen any of them here, but I coached a great group of girls. And lastly, I thank a friend and a teammate whom is the reason, she's the reason I'm even here, that nominated me for this honor. So Mary Posesniak, thank you very much. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. So thank you.
There's nothing more exciting than the competitor everyone knows is ready to strike and make the big play, and yet no one can stop them. From the heart of Chip Kelly's nonstop Oregon Duck offense of a decade ago, we honor the motor of that machine.
If you are building the Mount Rushmore of Oregon Ducks football players, you had better save a place for LaMichael James. The speedy back from Texarkana, Texas, carried plenty of strength on his 5'9" frame and helped start the Chip Kelly era with a bang. James' 3 seasons in Eugene were perhaps the greatest stretch in Duck football history. From 2009 to 2011, the Ducks had a combined record of 34-5, won 3 straight conference championships, and made 3 trips to BCS Bowls. James was the first unanimous first-team All-American and consensus 2-time All-American in program history. He holds the Duck record for 200-plus rushing games with 7. James ended up number 2 on the Oregon all-time list in career rushing yards, all-purpose yards, rushing touchdowns, 100-yard rushing games, and total points scored. It all started in 2009. James was named Pac-10 Freshman of the Year, setting a conference freshman record of 1,546 rush yards. 2010 was even bigger. LaMichael James won the Doak Walker Award as the nation's top running back and was a Heisman Trophy finalist. He led the nation in rushing with 1,733 yards and scored 24 touchdowns. 21 of those TDs were on the ground. That set an Oregon single-season record. The Ducks won 12 games for the first time in program history and reached the BCS National Championship game. He ended his Oregon career running for 1,805 yards in 2011. That's the second best single-season mark for a Duck. LJ's best game was against Arizona, 288 yards rushing and a school record 363 all-purpose yards. LaMichael was the second-round selection of the 49ers in the 2012 NFL Draft and played 3 seasons in the league. His best work in the pros was returning kicks in San Francisco. In retirement, he enjoys his family and operating killer burger franchises around the state. Later this year, he will enter the College Football Hall of Fame. Today, we welcome LaMichael James to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
LaMichael cannot be with us tonight, but he sends these thoughts from Texas.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say I am extremely sorry that I am not present to receive this prestigious award. It means so much to myself. It means so much to the University of Oregon, the state of Oregon. You know, it's like my second home. Coming from Texarkana, Texas, never really set out and dreamed on making it to the Hall of Fame in Oregon. And here I am. And just want to say I'm sorry that I'm not there. About a week ago, I started to get sick, barely even made it to the Colorado game because I started to get a little ill. And from then and here, you know, all of my family's gotten sick. So it seemed like I'm a little contagious right now. So I didn't want to take that chance and come back there and get anyone sick or, you know, compromise my health anymore. But I'm sorry that I'm not there. I really wish I was there to receive this award. Thank you everyone who's putting on such a tremendous show, and everyone who's coming out supporting all the other Hall of Fame inductees. Hey, we've made it. You can never take this from us. I appreciate it so much, and go Ducks. Thank you.
I'm actually a friend of LaMichael's. We speak quite a bit, and I think it's mostly because I like his hamburgers. But he's a great guy, and it really hurt him not to be here. As some of you know, he is going into the College Football Hall of Fame later this year. A tremendous honor, too. And suffered a real tough break last week when one of his stores in the Portland area was broken into and burglarized. They took a safe. They messed up the place pretty bad to where he had to close it for a while. So he's going through a kind of tough time. So anyway, he sends his best regards, and he's a good one. Happy he's in. And now we move on. I'm a little biased about the next guy. We grew up together, played baseball together, a lot of wiffle ball. We goofed off together, not too much, but a little bit. I watched him stay close to home and mentor generations of players, students, and young coaches. It's my honor to present the story of Mike Clopton.
Mike Clopton was fortunate in his youth to be surrounded by Portland's rich baseball scene, which would lead to a 38-year career as a very successful high school head coach. Mike was a product of Jack Dunn's program at Cleveland High School. It was Coach Roy Love who encouraged Clopton with a scholarship to Portland State, where he played and later served as assistant coach. Straight out of PSU, Mike Clopton became head coach at Jackson High School from 1977 to 82. When Jackson closed, Clopton and his other staff moved to Wilson. Mike would also coach football, girls basketball, teach business, and serve as assistant athletic director. But baseball was number one. For 32 years, Clopton guided the Trojans, winning the PIL title 11 times and 2 state championships, including a thrilling walk-off victory in 2012.
Ground ball over to the right side of the infield. To second for one. The relay to first. Not in time, and it's thrown into the dugout. And the Wilson Trojans are the state champions in 2012. The offline throw goes into the Summit Storm dugout, and that is going to allow the runner to come in and score the winning run. Wilson scores 4 in the 7th inning, and they are state champions in 2012. 7-6 the final score.
His total high school record, 613 wins, 438 losses. That's number 6 on Oregon's all-time list. Mike was honored as National Coach of the Year following that 2012 season. Mike Clopton's baseball life was not limited to high school teams. He coached American Legion for 40 seasons, plus Babe Ruth, and even Little League softball when daughter Denise played for Mount Sylvania. Mike estimates he has coached over 3,000 games in his baseball life. Clopton always put his business acumen to work with his teams, maintaining meticulous files of statistics, player notes, even uniform sizes. He was also an outstanding fundraiser, bringing in over $1 million in 51 years as player, coach, and administrator. The baseball field at what is now Ida B. Wells High School is named for Mike and his wife, Gail. Mike enjoys retirement, traveling with baseball buddies, and time with Gail, children Denise and Kevin, and 4 grandchildren. Mike Clopton is already a member of the PIL Hall of Fame and the Oregon Baseball Coaches Hall of Fame. Today, we welcome him to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
I hope you do a better job than you did when you were running for student body vice president. That was terrible. Wasn't it?
I lost student body president, senior class president, and men's league president all in the same year.
I don't think it was close either. That's just my opinion.
Wasn't.
All right, Mike, my dad was your first baseball coach. Tell us a little bit about your childhood.
My parents divorced when I was 5. We moved from McMinnville, Carlton to Portland, and your father was my first coach. My brother, Claire, was 8. I was 9. We played on the Selwood Moreland Merchants, and your father was the first father figure that was part of my life. My father died when I was 10, and so it was it was my coaches throughout my playing that mentored me, and they were the father figures in my life. Bob Farrell and Ken McCarthy from Farrell's Ice Cream Parlors were mentors to me, and Bob Farrell asked me to go to Salem and manage the store because the franchisee was having trouble, and sort of one of those Hallmark Godwink moments, if you watch those. And I met my future wife. She came home from UPS, had worked there before I got there, wanted to work at Christmas vacation, and next week we celebrate 54 years of marriage.
You're a saint, Gail. You really are. However many games he's coached, you were there. Usually running the concession stand. Mike, how did you get into coaching? What made you decide to get into coaching?
Well, I'm not quite sure. The adults that ran the Babe Ruth didn't want you and I to coach because we were young and maybe smarter than they were at the time because we'd played for Coach Dunn. But your brother was a 14-year-old. You were 16, I was 17, and we coached our first season. I'm not sure why we got into it. Later, we were clubhouse boys for the Beavers and all those stories and things that you could write a book. I think Jim Boughton did. And I just got started that way, and one thing led to another, and it was great for me. At one point, I was delivering milk, and one of the guys that I coached against in Babe Ruth was named a high school coach, and I thought, that's an inspiration, you know. If he could coach in high school, then maybe I could. The problem was you had to be a teacher. I was a 2.1 student in high school, and my best classes, my favorite classes was bookkeeping and typing, so I went to school to be a business teacher. Roy Love, I did some research after this guy was named the coach, and through him, and he coached at Cleveland Babe Ruth when we played, and so we got our same start together. He gave me a scholarship. We couldn't have afforded it otherwise. And through the opportunity to go to school, because I think that somehow the Bible talks a little about we all have different skills or traits, but I think I was destined to be a high school baseball coach and teacher. And so that's what I did, and I love going to work every morning.
What are you most proud of in your coaching career, Mike?
Well, I'm proud of my players on and off the field. As Coach Dunn has said many times, that baseball, athletics is a vehicle for student athletes to become good citizens. And I have many successful, good citizens. Some of them are here tonight that I'm proud of. I'm proud of the program that we ran. I had over 50 players that donated, volunteered, you know, that they coached to help the players, sort of like what you and I did at Cleveland Babe Ruth, and we did the same thing with Coach Dunn at Wilson with Watco, that we were able to speed the process maybe a little, that we know how to do it, and so those coaches were good to me. The summer program that we ran, Alpen Rose Dairy, Carl Cadnan and his father, Carl Sr., sponsored the community, Jackson, and then at Wilson for almost 50 years. And those trips allowed us to play. And my philosophy was, which I got a little from Coach Campbell at Newburgh and at Tigard, that you want to play. You play to get better. And we played I lost more games than we won in the summer because we're trying to develop for high school. And the success we had in high school is directly proportioned to Alpenrose and the support that we got from them.
Okay, it's about time to give you that piece of hardware. I want to say one thing, though. Tom Trebelhorn came up from Arizona to be here tonight. We all grew up together. Treb managed the Cubs and the Brewers in the big leagues. Mike was National High School Baseball Coach of the Year. National, okay? And I do goofy stuff on the radio. So we're all in the Hall of Fame now and proud of it. Congratulations, Mike.
Thank you. You have to let me acknowledge that it was a family affair growing up, and that my wife, my kids, school was our social outlet because we didn't have much money as a teacher. And my grandkids grew up at the field and the school, and so I'm very fortunate that, and as you said, my wife did all that fundraising as well, that we wouldn't be in this situation without her. That I've had a fun time.
Okay, now it's time to recognize other members of the Hall of Fame in attendance tonight. Please stand and be recognized. I'm going to name you, and I think I've got all the names, I hope. Stand when you hear your name, if you will. Willie Anderson, Jack Dunn, Terry Durham, Jack Elder, Jack Folliard, Ed Fredenberg, Roger Goldengay, Mike Hass, Pudgy Hunt, me, Jim Joyce, Tom Levac, and Jay Losi, Terry Mariani, Terry Porter, Steve Priest, Chuck Richards, Nick Robertson, Ad Rutschman, and my old schoolmate, Tom Troublehorn. Thanks to you all for coming tonight and welcoming our new members. All right, in 2016, the Hall created a new award in the name of the great Bill Schonely. It is intended to honor an individual who has significantly impacted sport in Oregon while also generously giving back to the Oregon community. This honor takes on even more significance with the passing of Sean's this year. This is a very special award. It's on display outside the room. You can all get a chance to see it coming in tonight. I'm sure there's an old school microphone. Bill's rings from the '77 Trailblazer Championship season and his induction into the Basketball Hall of Fame are now permanently additions to that award. Only one other Oregonian has received this award until tonight. Now it is time to honor a man who has spent his life behind the scenes making things better. And I swear, half the people in this room have been better for meeting this man.
Larry Sellers devoted 31 years of his life to Portland State University athletics. Serving as sports information director, Larry told the stories of Viking teams and athletes in so many ways. He was a friendly and reliable connection for media members, served as a Vikes radio announcer himself, and took on many other tasks in the PSU athletic office. Larry Sellers grew up in Banks with a natural love of sports. He played basketball, baseball, and football, graduating in 1954. He also had an interest in working in media, winning a writing scholarship from Pacific University. After 2 years playing baseball and basketball at Pacific, Larry transferred to the University of Oregon to study radio and TV further. In 1958, Larry jumped into the radio biz, first in Astoria, later in Portland. He added a master's degree from Michigan State in 1962 and continued to be a jack of all trades. Sellers joined Portland State full-time in 1968. Larry joined Roy Love's athletic office of 2.5 people. The Vikings athletic program was small but mighty. Larry Sellers got to share a lot of great stories from his tiny office with no windows. PSU produced national champions in volleyball and wrestling, and Sellers told the world about some great names. A prolific hoopster named Freeman Williams, a record-setting NFL quarterback Neil Lomax. Great coaches like Don Reed, Mouse Davis, Pokey Allen, Tim Walsh, and Terry Mariani knew they could trust him. Larry was also the guy who told us about some of the most original promotions in college sports history. That series of ticket commercials with Coach Pokey Allen involving an elephant, a raging fire, and a meteor. Larry Sellers is also proud of his association with Bill Schonely. Larry was also a member of the Trailblazers stat crew, working courtside for the duration of Schonz's radio career, going back to that first exhibition game in Longview, Washington. In retirement, the anointed mayor of Banks enjoys time on the farm with his wife Janice and visits from 3 daughters and 5 grandchildren. Today, we present Larry Sellers with the Bill Schonely Lifetime Achievement Award.
Come on up, Larry. Larry, you were interested in media at a very young age, and I'm kind of curious about, even though you were all-city player at Banks, you know, all-city in Banks, that's a joke. What is it about telling the story that was so attractive to you?
Well, my dad was really interested in sports, so it was just natural for me, I think. And he would take me to Arlington for the B State tournament. We went to Eugene for the AAA basketball tournament, which was a very big deal. To Corvallis. Everybody says they were there. We were there when Oregon State beat that guy, Simpson.
Yeah, I remember him.
And USC, like 3-0.
Yeah.
And then started driving us to Portland Beavers baseball games at Vaughn Street. Got interested in that in a big way because they won the PCL pennant, and that was a big deal in those days, and they packed Vaughn Street ballpark, 10,000, 12,000 people, and their ex-major leaguers would come down and play, or the guys going up would go through there.
At Portland State, I was going to ask you about this. You had a real small staff. Not very many people helping you out, but you had a great group of coaches there. You guys won a lot of things, did some amazing things, actually. National championships, a lot of records broken, pro careers. What was so special in those days about Viking sports?
I think Roy Love did a tremendous job in handpicking coaches. I don't know how he did it. He didn't miss on many, I'll tell you that. Don Reed, super person, put the ball in the air, hired by Montana away from us after he beat them the last game of the season. And then Mouse Davis followed him. Well, you know how Mouse is, and a lot of fun. Talk about ball in the air with his run and shoot. And the first quarterback, he had June Jones, pretty darn good himself, and he was the first original 6-year player because he redshirted at Oregon, then went to Hawaii and missed a year with injury and petitioned, and so he got an extra year. Well, he was going to give up football, come home. He was married. Mouse heard about it, so he recruited him to Portland State, and 2 years of great football there. What was the rest of the question?
That's good enough. I got other questions, so we can move on. How about that? You had Pokey Allen there for a while, and he was known. If you weren't around here at the time, they did amazing commercials on television with Pokey riding an elephant, a meteor landing in his backyard. There was all kinds of wacky stuff, and Pokey was great at doing it. But you followed up with Tim Walsh as the football coach, and I knew Tim pretty well. I don't know, was he the kind of guy that wanted to do those kind of things like Pokey did?
Not really was his personality, but the greatest guy in the world. He's super guy,
Yeah.
Tim Walsh, and he wanted his kids to not have to move around the country, so he spent 14 years at Portland State until his kids were through school. And one thing Bob Akamian didn't mention on the film was that Pokey bungee jumped off the roof of Civic Stadium. Some of you remember that, I guess. And of course, we held our breath, but then that worked out and got pretty good media attention. and that was without a net, too. And then Tim Walsh tried to follow in Pokey's footsteps because he knew how successful those shenanigans were. So I don't know who talked him into it, Steve Dreamweaver or Cap Hedges or who. They were in the media and advertising business. And so Tim bungee jumped off of there, and I think he was a little apprehensive about the whole thing, and certainly I was. He's a nice family man. I didn't want him to go away, or anything like that. But I should say about Mouse, when he was coaching and throwing the football around, he had Lomax and a great nose tackle named Fred Nordgren, and they'd kick the ball off to Delaware State. They would line up at about the 10-yard line. Nordgren would hit that center, balls on the ground, or Portland State recovers, and then Lomax throw one pass touchdown in the end zone. 7 touchdowns in the first quarter of that game. And so Mouse takes him out, puts him back in for one series in the second half, another touchdown, 8 touchdown passes. And then Mouse said, and I talked to him the other day, and he said, then I took Neil out, didn't want to run up the score, but that's not Mouse's personality. He's a run and shoot. So his second quarterback kept throwing. I think it was Lloyd LaFrance from Tillamook, and so he kept tossing the ball, and it ends up 105-0. And talk about everybody doing the same jobs at Portland State. Jack Dunn was filming then on the roof of Civic Stadium, and he turns to Roy Love, who always spent the time up there also, and he said, Roy, does Delaware State have a baseball team? So I have a couple other funny lines that I could pull out of here, but
Well, go ahead, take over if you want, Larry.
okay, thank you. Go ahead, you guys talk among yourselves.
Larry will be appearing down at Helium Comedy Club tomorrow if you guys would like to drop by.
Let me tell you about the first radio job I had in sports announcing. I'm at KGON, Oregon City. I go to Malala High School. No problem calling a football game, right? I show up 2 hours before game time. I should have showed up 2 days before game time. I got there, and there is no press box, no program. I had no spotter. A janitor helped me find an extension cord to run power out to the sideline, and then they got a flatbed truck for me to be on to broadcast the game. Worst radio broadcast I've ever heard, I'm sure.
All right. If you don't mind now, Larry, I want to move on because we have other people here, you know?
I know.
I don't want to interrupt your show, but, you know, seriously.
I want to say, what was Mike Clopton, married 64 years? Did he say that? 54. Oh, yeah. Janice, my wife over here, we've been married 64 years. And she held down the fort when I traveled all over the place and with teams, and when I was on the road, I'd try to find a phone booth so I could call her. A phone booth.
Sure, I remember those. Yeah.
And my daughters, who really helped on all this script stuff that I can't use. Yeah. Suzanne, Cindy, and Tammy. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. I got one more quick one for you. I just want to make sure you know this is an award going to a very elite group of people in the memory of Bill Schonley. And the first winner of the award was Don Essig, the voice of Autzen Stadium. And Don wanted to send along these words of congratulations.
Hi Larry, Don Essig sending you my big congratulations on receiving the Bill Schonely Lifetime Achievement Award from the State of Oregon Sports Hall of Fame. Without a doubt, you're most worthy of the trophy because all the contributions you've made to sports and your communities in the state of Oregon over many years. I know that Bill would be most proud of your being named to his trophy, and you certainly are a great example of all the things the award represents. Sorry I couldn't be there, but I definitely wanted to send you my congratulations, tell you to enjoy your special evening, and welcome to the Bill Schonely team.
Thank you, Don. He also sent me a note in the mail.
Oh, he did?
Yeah,
Good.
very nice. And I think Don and I worked together when I was a student at University of Oregon. We split the 26-game AAA tournament down there together, and the Far West Classic in Portland, too.
Very nice.
And now back to Dwight.
Well, you... I feel bad, Larry. I didn't want to interrupt this whole thing, but, you know, you got this deal here, and it's pretty nice. So congratulations, man.
Thank you very much. And I would say on the trophy out there, Jack Dunn wrote some very nice things about me, and I also thank Kerry Agers for his piece on his website, which everybody, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people have seen it and then talking about it. Thank you. My Life Story by Kerry Agers.
Right. I got to say, Larry, that was big time. Special thanks, too. While I was coaching at Portland State, which I did for 3 years, Larry was kind enough to do a work-study thing with me, and he was out trying to sell tickets at the time. So I just sat in his office and did nothing for about one term and got paid for it. It was great. That was the highlight of my schooling at Portland State, I think. Okay, next up. Golf is a sport for a lifetime. Our new member is another Oregon native who passed on a professional career and instead built a reputation as one of America's best amateurs throughout her life.
A childhood love of sport has taken Lara Tennant to a lifetime of adventure on the golf course, where she has spent decades as a champion amateur. She was Lara Mack, growing up in Portland with parents and 4 siblings who played golf along with other sports. Lara and sister Renee were part of the first girls' classes at Central Catholic High School. Those teams had immediate success on and off the court. Lara was a 4-year National Honor Scholar and competed in volleyball, basketball, skiing, and of course, golf. The Rams girls golf team was an instant hit, winning 4 league titles and Central's first ever girls team state championship in 1983. Lara won the Metro League individual title as a senior after finishing second for 3 years. She also was second of the state as a senior. That success earned her a full scholarship at the University of Arizona. She won her share of tournaments and decided to stay an amateur, although she would have had options to turn pro. Marriage and family took center stage. Golf was a sidelight until Lara reached her 40s. She kept entering and winning tournaments, and when Waverly Golf Club hosted the Senior Women's Amateur in 2017, Tennant celebrated her 50th birthday, earning co-medalist honors. Now golf became serious. Lara studied the game, spent more time on practice, and was rewarded with a string of success in major events. Back-to-back U.S. Senior Amateur titles in 2018 and 19, then the British Senior Amateur, then the U.S. again in 2021. In all, she has qualified for 23 USGA championships and won 7 Oregon Senior Championships. A family member has caddied for her at every national championship she has played in, and she met her husband on a golf date at Waverly. Waverly Golf Club was the host of this year's Senior Open, allowing Tennant to play again in front of family and friends on her home course. Lara Tennant was inducted into the Pacific Northwest Golf Hall of Fame in 2022. Today, we welcome Lara Tennant to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
Lara Tennant cannot join us in person tonight. She is, of course, preparing for another tournament. The U.S. Women's Amateur is this week in Scottsdale, Arizona. Lara has won this event 3 times. She sends these words for us.
Good evening. I wish I could be there in person tonight. Only a golf tournament could keep me from being with all of you. Please know that I'm humbled and so very honored to be inducted into the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame. Thank you to the Hall for your time and commitment to this wonderful organization, and congratulations to my fellow inductees. What a great class we have. I'm a proud Oregonian through and through, born and raised here, so this honor means so much to me. Thank you again. I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Good luck to Lara on the course this week. One of her biggest fans is here tonight to accept her induction plaque. Let's welcome Lara's mom, Jan McHugh. All right.
On behalf of Lara, thank all of you.
All right, you don't hear the phrase kill the umpire around the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame. We have some good ones already. Terry Durham and Jim Joyce are members, and they are here tonight. Now it's time to add another, a kid from Eugene who has made an adventure of a baseball life.
In the 1970s, Dale Scott was the proverbial young man in a hurry. His athletic accomplishments at Sheldon High in Eugene were on the tennis court. He was also a musician, a student broadcaster, and a friend to all on campus. His love of baseball and his lack of ability drew him to umpiring at the early age of 15. Dale knew he wanted to be part of the grand old game. Dale Scott went straight into the radio business after graduation, but the baseball bug continued to bite, propelling him first to umpire school in 1980, and then after 5 seasons of dues paying in the minor leagues, he made the show in 1986. Scott loves the umpiring life, and baseball loved him back. A man who could talk to anyone, he could take abuse from angry players and managers and dish it right back, usually with a smile. Dale always liked to stand out from the crowd. When the American League introduced the red shirt uniform option in 1996, Dale was frequently the only one on his crew to wear the color. He found himself square in the middle of labor strife when 68 Major League umpires resigned in 1999, trying to force baseball into a new agreement. He also found himself living a quiet double life after meeting his future husband Michael in 1986. Scott came out publicly in 2014 after finding himself welcomed within baseball for being his authentic self. Umpires endure their own physical grind of fatigue and injuries. Scott's career was cut short by concussions, 4 in 5 years, and then in 2017, 2 in 9 months. After being knocked out of a game in Toronto, he knew it was time to hang it up. His 32-year Major League career included 3,897 regular season games, 91 postseason games, 92 ejections, and too many to count, stories and memorable moments. He umpired in 3 World Series, 3 All-Star games, 6 League Championship Series, and 12 Division Series. In retirement, Dale tells a lot of those stories in his book, The Umpire is Out, and he spends a lot of time following his beloved Oregon Ducks. Today, we welcome Dale Scott to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
That's really weird. I never get cheers when my name is mentioned. That makes me nervous.
Just don't kick anybody out,
Well,
okay?
old habits.
Dale, I've known you a long time, and I always thought you're one of those guys that good things happen to. You kind of, things work out for you. You worked in radio. You wanted to be in radio. You got in radio. You wanted to be an umpire. You started as a young kid, and you became a big league umpire. Then you were in the bigs for a long time. Are you that lucky or that good?
Luckily, I was good, or maybe I was good luckily. I don't know. Before I go on, though, I have to say something. I have to recognize my husband, Mike. A few years ago, I was inducted in the Sheldon High School Hall of Fame, and I thanked everybody in the room, everybody that we drove by on I-5, everybody that ever entered my life, and I forgot to thank Mike. And I've been paying for that since, so I want to say, just right off the bat, this is...
Are we good, Mike? Is everything all right now? Okay.
37 years on Friday, so thank you, Mike.
Yeah. As a football fan, you know, he keeps receipts.
Yes, he does. Yeah, he's got a few.
Yeah.
You know, I was lucky. I mean, you have to have a little luck, I think. Sometimes it's bad, but sometimes it's good. When I got promoted to AAA in 1984, I had only worked 2 games behind the plate. When we went into Louisville, I was working with Larry Young, Tim Cheetah, and Matt Fairchild. Well, the American League, Dick Butler was the supervisor. They already had an option on Larry Young. They were interested in Tim Cheetah, so he came to Louisville to see those guys work. Well, Larry had the plate Friday night. Tim had it Sunday. I had it Saturday, so he had to sit through one of my plate jobs, which was only the 3rd one since I'd been promoted. Well, that game went 5 hours, 15 innings, and we didn't have the speed-up rules.
But no clock.
Dick was there with Mike Fitzpatrick, a minor league umpire, and Mike told me later about the 6th inning. He said, "Who is this kid? Who is this guy?" You know, he just came up, Dale Scott. Well, I had that long game. The next thing you know, we went to Evansville, Indiana. By the way, a garden spot. If you've ever been, you should go. They had a supervisor there, Larry Knapp, to watch us, and then we went to Indianapolis. Bill Haller, a supervisor, watched us. I'd worked 5 plate games in AAA, and the American League bought my option.
Wow.
That's luck.
Well, it's also talent, right?
Well, yeah. Luckily, that 15-inning game, I didn't, fall flat. So
yeah. Okay. Nowadays, we have all kinds of tracking and graphics and machines and high tech that kind of looks at every ball and strike in the big leagues. I watch a lot of games. I see it every game. How would you have done with all that equipment when you were umpiring?
Well, probably horrible. The thing is, the on-screen strike zone is very deceiving. It's not 100%, and it's just killing umpires. I showed last year on my Facebook page a game between St. Louis was at the New York Mets. There was a 3-2 pitch, bases loaded. The Mets were up. It was called ball 4. Now, on the St. Louis telecast, the on-screen strike zone had the ball just on the line, which should have been a strike according to that. The same exact pitch on the Mets broadcast had it just above the line. Same pitch. So it's not 100% accurate. It's a facsimile of the strike zone, but unfortunately, everyone thinks that is gospel, and a pitch that's just off the line, it's called a strike. Oh my God, it's way outside. What's he looking at? I mean, it's tough for the umpires. I'm kind of glad I retired when I did.
But are we headed to robot umpires?
The ABS system, automatic balls and strikes system, is coming. I will be surprised. They said they're not going to have it next year, but they're trying to get it in. They're trying to perfect it. They would have it now if it worked. It just doesn't yet. So so you're stuck with us.
I see those rings on you. Are those World Series rings?
They are. This is.
See, people don't know that. Umpires, when they do the World Series, they get rings just like the players do.
Right, yeah, ours are a lot smaller. And but in a way, they're a lot rarer because there's only 6 or 7 of them.
One last question too: have you ever thrown treble horn out of a game?
No, I talked to him earlier.
You could toss him out of here.
Well, I don't want to throw something out now. It's been so long, but we had a couple discussions when he was with the Brewers and the Cubs. But Tom was. But Tom was. Believe me, if they were all like Tom. This would have been a lot easier gig. Trust me.
Yeah, I bet. All right, let's go. It's time, Dale. Let's give you something.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we welcome another homegrown Oregonian who is also a coach's kid. He's taken his skills all over the country, but always seems to find his way home to Corvallis.
Long before Mike Riley was big man on campus at Corvallis High School, he knew he wanted to become a football coach. That desire came from watching his father, Bud, beginning his own coaching career in Wallace, Idaho. After Bud moved the family to become an assistant at Oregon State, Mike Riley became part of one of the greatest collections of high school talent in Oregon history. Mike played 3 sports for CHS teams that all won state championships. Riley was the option quarterback for the football team that hosted 2 epic back-to-back state finals against Medford in Parker Stadium in 1969 and 70. Riley's college career was playing defensive back at Alabama for the legendary Bear Bryant, and he immediately joined the coaching ranks himself in 1975. Mike had the great fortune to learn from some coaching greats at various stops in college football and the Canadian Football League. Riley's first head coaching job was with Winnipeg at age 33, where he won 2 Grey Cup championships. In his second head job, he was considered a great developer of talent with San Antonio of the World League of American Football. His best work was at Oregon State. From 1997 to 98, Riley revived the program and set the table for the end of the 30-year streak of losing seasons.
Jiminy Christmas!
That led to an NFL opportunity with the San Diego Chargers. 5 years later, Riley returned to an OSU program firing on all cylinders, and the Beavs enjoyed all kinds of success. 8 winning seasons in 12 years and 6 bowl victories. The Beavers sent 4 quarterbacks to the NFL, and in 2012, Mike Riley became the winningest coach in OSU football history. Oregon State was not the end of Riley's head coaching career. The University of Nebraska, the Alliance of American Football, and head coach and general manager of the New Jersey Generals of the new USFL. Today, we welcome Mike Riley to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Dwight. I appreciate that. I've got the routine now. I think I know what to do.
Good, because I don't. That's good. Mike, you coached at a lot of places, but you always seem to work your way back to Corvallis.
Yeah.
What's with that?
You know, I think everybody knows now that I grew up in Corvallis, and we just had, as you saw, just an unbelievable group of guys sitting. Some of them are sitting right here, and our coach Solberg, who taught us to be winners, is right over here. But this group right here, we had fun. We were, it's friends, classmates, teammates, and we always played. We were always in the park. We were sneaking into a gym up on campus. We just had fun playing, and it transferred. It transferred into just good teams. We took to coaching real well because we loved it, and so it was just Donnie Reynolds called it Pleasantville, being in Corvallis, and we just had a great experience. And then later on we transferred, forward. My kids grew up there now, and Matt and Kate, they're right over here. My family's here, and I'm going to interject. I get the deal. You're going to ask questions, and then I'm going to say what I want to, and we'll see if I can fit in an answer somewhere in there.
I've spent a lifetime doing that. Yeah.
That's the way we do it. But my family's here. My brothers Pete and Ed, my grandkids, our stars, Cece and Eli, and my niece Hannah, her husband Eddie, and Matt, my son, Kate, my daughter, and my son-in-law Mark. So I can share. There's a group right there. There's a group from Corvallis right here. There's a group of my former players out here. Coach Rutschman, who is the greatest teacher of sports I've ever been around, influenced every part of it was the best thing that ever happened to me was go to Linfield and coached for Ad. His son Donnie is here, and we had a blast coaching for Ad together. We both coached football and baseball because Ad had everybody coach 2 sports, and we taught classes, and that was how we grew up. This state has been so special to me. I've lived everywhere, you know. I've lived around the country, and I've lived in Canada, and whenever anybody says, "Where are you from?" I'm from Oregon. It just kind of came out naturally, and now, you know, I was thinking about this because I knew the question that was coming, and I thought about Saturday. And last Saturday for me was 9:45. Cece played soccer, and then at 11:30 Eli had a flag game, and then at 1:30 he had a doubleheader, second part of a doubleheader flag football game. And then that afternoon, I took Eli. He wanted to go see a buddy play 8th grade game over in Albany, so we went to South Albany and watched the game at 5 o'clock. We got home about 8, and that was Saturday. And that's why I come back to Corvallis. That's why I'm in Corvallis. I love it. It was just the greatest day in the world. Yeah.
Mike, in your long career, you had a chance to learn from so many great coaches, and I'm wondering who influenced you the most?
Oh, boy. I don't like to do most. I've had, you know, it's a real good question. It's so hard. I've loved, and there's all different parts. You know, Ad taught us about teaching. Coach Solberg taught us about winning. Coach Bryant, that program was about pride. I mean, and just it was just kind of an honor to be in that program. Everybody was so proud to play for Coach Bryant and to be there. My dad, my dad was a high school, before he went into college, he was a high school history teacher and coach. That's all I was ever going to do. I can't remember ever wanting to be a fireman. I grew up knowing I was going to be a coach, and I went to college and I got my social science degree, history concentration, got my teacher's certificate. I did my student teaching at Tuscaloosa County High, and I got into coaching. And I never did get to teach history, and I miss that. But that's always my dad's influence there. My brothers will tell you, he loved football and spent a ton of time with football, but he loved his players. And so around our dinner table, him talking about the team, it was like talking about family. And I think it just rubbed off on me. It was nothing we really ever talked about like that, but it was just part of our lives. We were just, you know, and for me, like I said, I never thought about doing anything else. And then I got to work for, you know, just the best guy in front of a team I've ever seen in my life is John Robinson from USC. When he spoke to the team, it was just beautiful. And what a great advocate John was for players. And Hugh Campbell, who won 5 straight Grey Cups in Canada, was just a great people guy. He understood people, and he understood the people he wanted with him and why he wanted them with him, you know, whether it was their talent or what they brought off the field to his team. But he was a tremendous influence. I worked for Cal Murphy at Winnipeg, and Cal was a great football coach, but also I learned so much from him about putting a football team together in the Canadian League. You had a ratio, I had to deal with Canadians, Americans, all that stuff. So you know, I've had so many mentors, and like I mentioned Coach Solberg about us in Corvallis High School and the winning attitude that was there. We weren't a winning team before that, but when he came, we went to the state championship immediately, and then we won it the next year, and then playing for Ad after that. So I've just been, my life, for me to get this, I want to thank the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame. It's an awesome thing to be, but when you're a coach, you've got the people that are around you that support the family. We've had so much fun through the years sharing our teams with our family. Everybody's been a part of it, and I'm so sad. My wife is not well. She can't travel. She can't be here, but she is a true Hall of Famer in our family, and we will, yeah, and. But we have had so much fun, and I have had so many great experiences growing up like we did in Corvallis, and so many great people that influenced me that I got to work with or for all the way. I absolutely love the fact that there's some former players back here, just that means the world to me. That was that. The older you get in this thing, the more you just appreciate. You kind of step back, and it's like smelling the roses about the relationships you have with guys like this.
All right, one more quick one. You
Quick
just
one,
took
you
over.
sure?
Yes, I'm going to try. You
Yeah.
took over the New Jersey USFL team the last 2 years, coach and GM. When are you ever going to? I mean, what keeps you going in this?
Oh, it's fun. I think first of all, opportunity to keep going. You know, when somebody calls and asks you to do it, it really has been a real blast to continue to coach. This is what I'm doing is not like all consuming right now, Dwight. I coach for 4 months and we work all year. Like we just the last 2 days signed 3 free agents from other teams. So we were on the phone, but it allows me some breathing room to be back here in Oregon with the family for most of the year, and so it's fun. And I still enjoy the football, the game planning, and I do take a little more time now, and I go down and hang out in the locker room with the players. I love those relationships, and I think also you get to the point where you know you're not going to get to do it forever, and so you kind of go, wow, every time you know that you get a chance to do that is pretty special, and I've got a couple more guys I just have to mention here. A couple guys from Oregon State, Dan Vanderreet and Steve McCoy. It just made me think about all the people that contribute, you know, and the people that I enjoy and the projects that we did together at Oregon State, those two guys. And the fact Steve McCoy is probably most instrumental in when Steve came in '98, we snuck him across the border from Canada, and he never could go back, so he's still at Oregon State, and I think that was '98, but he has nurtured the relationship with Nike. We had no contracts, we had no money, nothing, and somehow he is to what it is today. It's just a beautiful thing, but 2 detailed workers, DVD and Steve, that fun to work with, but I still do this because I love it, and I'm thankful to be able to do it. The other thing I got to do is share it with the family again. And I brought my grandson. He came, his mother, I talked her into it, let him come to training camp for 7 weeks with me. We were roommates in the Residence Inn in Canton, Ohio. And that was a blast. That was really, really fun. And then he flew to Birmingham for the first game, and so I get to keep doing this. I get to keep coaching football. I get to keep sharing it with the people that I love. It's a pretty good deal. Yeah.
Mike Riley.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great job, Mike. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, our final new inductee for 2023 is a team like no other. A lot of professional baseball teams have repped Portland over the years, many of them named the Beavers. But you could not make up the story of the Portland Mavericks. They tried. And it's all true.
The Portland Mavericks are a Hollywood story come to life. Veteran actor Bing Russell's lifetime love of baseball met up with an unusual opportunity. It was 1973, and the Class AAA Portland Beavers were moving to Spokane. The territory could be had for next to nothing, and the Mavericks were born, the only independent team in the minor leagues. The Mavericks roster came from a truly open tryout, 150 has-beens, never-wases, and a few refugees from organized baseball. Playing for $300 to $400 a month was just fine for this group. The Mavs played fast and loose, and they won games, as well as winning over Portland fans who loved baseball regardless of the level. It was the collection of characters and antics that were sometimes more interesting than the game itself. Bing Russell's son, Kurt, was taking a break from acting and was one of the first to sign on. Frank Peters, the team's second manager, was a former Orioles prospect who played basketball at Oregon State. But for Frank the Flake, managing a baseball team went hand in hand with running restaurants and nightclubs, which in turn welcomed many of the players. The team's best player was Reggie Thomas. He broke the Northwest League's stolen base record with 72 in one season. He also had a famous temper, one time pulling a gun on manager Peters in the clubhouse. Yes, this really happened. Some big league flavor arrived when former Yankee ace Jim Bouton mounted his comeback with the Mavs after being blackballed for writing his tell-all book, Ball 4. The Mavericks were winners on the field. The baseball establishment was not pleased. Portland advanced to the playoffs 4 times in 5 seasons. And just like that, it ended in 1978 when the Pacific Coast League muscled its way back into Civic Stadium. Bing Russell wouldn't go without a fight, and an arbitrator awarded him what was then a massive $206,000 settlement to go away. Not many Mavericks went on to major league careers. Kurt Russell went back to acting. The bat boy Todd Field made it to Hollywood as well. Big League Chew was invented in the Civic Stadium bullpen. Still, this band of brothers loves to share memories of those outlaw days on the diamond. You might know them as the Battered Bastards of Baseball. Today, we welcome the Portland Mavericks to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
Okay, guys, now we're going to do this, but be nice, okay? Kind of a family crowd. Let's be good, okay? There's a lot of stories about this team and a lot of people who love to share them. First, we're going to start with Frank the Flake himself, Frank Peters. Okay, the floor is yours. They told me you had something you wanted to say. All I could say is, keep it clean and don't go on too long. Okay.
First of all, I want to share something really exciting and I think kind of unusual. I entered a beauty contest a couple weeks ago and I came in second. Everybody else tied for first. With that in mind, I'd like to first introduce the idea of keeping the legend alive, which, of course, the documentary Battered Bastards of Baseball. How many here would you raise your hands? How many have seen the documentary on Battered Bastards? Okay, now look around. And how was it? Pretty good documentary, wasn't it? Yep. So if you haven't seen it, watch it again. It's really good. And the one thing you want to kind of pay attention to is that it's original music by the third brother, which Kurt Russell's nephews, Bing Russell's grandsons. And when, of course, they got the idea when they were cleaning the grandmother's garage out and saw all this stuff. Now, first I'd like to introduce a person who is currently keeping the legend alive. Started a whole Maverick League down in Kaiser Salem. And baseball is changing in the minor leagues, and he's making a sincere effort to keep it going. So Jerry Walker, would you stand up? And if you guys have a chance, support the Kaiser Maverick Independent League. We've lost a few of the Mavericks along the way. We lost Bing Russell. We lost, all the time we lose. We lost Jim Bouton. We lost Steve Collette, the manager. We lost Hank Robinson, a manager. We lost Gene Lanthorn, and of course Jim Bouton, and of course kind of the heart and soul of the Mavericks, which I think if you've seen the documentary, it really comes off quite well. Jim Swanson, who was kind of the real Maverick. And of course,
Left-handed catcher, by the way.
Yeah, right. And incidentally, his son is the bench coach for the New York Yankees, and completely opposite of Swanee. I think Nick Bertram summed up the Mavericks the best. Nick, you're here somewhere. Where are you? Stand up, Nick. Nick was a writer for the Oregonian, and there were two writers, Ken Wheeler and Nick Bertram, and I think more than anything in the world, they kind of captured the magic. And Nick described it to me the other day. He said it was a Bing Russell production. It was directed by nobody. It starred everybody that wanted to be part of it. It was, depending upon what time of day it was either a parental guidance or an R event, and it still resonates today. And I want to kind of, let's see, I'm missing something here on the Mavericks. Oh, it was probably a lost thing that going on for a long time, and being part of the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame is the end of, well, we went from the Hall of Shame to the Hall of Fame. And to quote the great Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones, when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it's always special to be rewarded for bad behavior.
And of course, he's not kidding. Now let's welcome the mayor of the bullpen and the Baron of Bubblegum, the co-creator of Big League Chew, Rob Nelson. You're wearing shorts.
They said business attire in the bubblegum business. This is business attire.
Don't get too comfortable now. You're not here for a long time.
No, I know that, but it's comfortable. What can I say about the Mavericks? Nobody signed me when I got out of college. I got 3 weeks in spring training with the St. Louis Cardinals under a friend's name who was 3 years younger. And true story. I knew my baseball life was going to be strange when I was Dave Raymond as a St. Louis Cardinal in Sarasota, Florida. And my first tryout was pitching against a skinny kid named Randy, who was a really good guy. And he turned out to be Randy Macho Man Savage. So I went from a fake name, and he started with a real name, and we just changed places. And it went there. It went downhill from there. I was in South Africa. My dad sent me some clippings. I'd pitched a couple of good seasons, and he said, Rob, anybody can try out in Portland. This is where you need to go. And so that's why I came here. The thing about the Mavericks that I think a lot of people miss is the vision that Bing and Kurt Russell had. They were not only clever guys, but they were really kind guys. And they really were, people who loved baseball were drawn to that team. And there are a lot of guys who could really play, the Cliff Hollands of the world, the Larry Coltons. And then there are clowns like me and Swanee. And somehow Bing found a way to make us a part of his family. I won 1 game in 3 years with the Mavericks, and it was one of the greatest nights of my life. We went out and celebrated, and nobody celebrated with a touch of irony. They said, Rob's been here for 3 seasons, he's won 1 game. And that's what Bing had in mind. The fans related to the fact that we were not A-list actors, but we love the game of baseball. And that's the thing I really want to come across, that Bing Russell was not only a genius, and he loved the city of Portland, but he gave guys an opportunity to be a part of something that was really special. Kurt used to talk about Bing was like the music man, and we were just the trombone section. And he made the team happy, he made the city happy. And I think the reason we're here, the reason we're being honored is we brought joy to Portland right at the beginning when Portland was embracing itself as being weird. And there was Maverick mania before there was Blazer mania. We kind of set the table for the Blazers, We set the table for the Timbers, for that matter, that fans could be a part of the show. If you look at the documentary, the biggest two stars of the documentary are Civic Stadium and the fans. The players are just bits. But the fans who came here and showed the affection they did, and that old classic ballpark was just so much fun. I will say this, the one guy who knows more about Portland and the Mavericks is Nick Bertram. He was there from the beginning. He's like Genesis 1, and I know you've got him up here next. He knows things about the Mavs that nobody knew, and I'm trying to get him to write the long volume of the history of the team. But the one thing I want to get across is how grateful guys like me were to just get a chance to put on that Maverick uniform. Jim Bouton once told me, he said, you know, there are fewer Portland Mavericks in the history of the team than there are New York Yankees. And he didn't say that to be funny. He said, this is a special team. This is a special city. And I came here for 3 months in 1975. It's almost 50 years, and I'm still here. And I'm really grateful to this city and for everything it's done for every one of us Mavs, both the guys who could play well and the guys who were pretty dreadful, and include me among those, all right? Thank you so much.
Good job, Rob. Nice done. I'm going to add one thing about Bing Russell. I've met a lot of people in my life. He may be top 3 smartest people I've met in my life in or out of sports. Bing Russell was incredible, brilliant man. Last person now to tell the story is a guy who helped write the script for this team. My old friend and one of the great sports writers in Oregon history, Nick Bertram of the Oregonian. And believe me, between Nick and Ken Wheeler of the Journal, I don't know that the Mavericks would have been the Mavericks without him. They wrote beautiful stuff.
It's like the old press box, you and me, right?
Yeah, kind of that way, really. Yep.
Well, I think you're honoring several things tonight with the Mavericks. Number one, they're probably the most famous minor league baseball team in history. They're subject of, NBC came out twice to do something with them. They're on Johnny Carson. You could read about them in the New Yorker, Time, Newsweek, People, and of course, the Netflix documentary, Battered Bastards. You're also honoring a guy who single-handedly took on the entire baseball establishment in Bing. And you're honoring the guys who never were able to be drafted, had been released, and were given an opportunity to compete against the elite young talent in the country, the bonus babies that made up the teams from the Class A league that they were in. You're honoring the fans that took a dead baseball, or a dead town, basically, and lit the fire for what made Portland a real sports town. And I think you're honoring a time. It was a magic era that never could have happened anywhere else at any other time but here. And I'll try to explain. I'd been in the Air Force during Vietnam and had just gotten back to the paper. And 2 years later, I got called into the office and said, we're going to give you the Portland Beaver Beat. And I thought, wow, this is pretty good. The Beavers have been here 70 years. They've been Portland's sports town story forever. And they said, there's a press conference in 2 hours, go cover it. So I went to the press conference and found out I didn't have a beat. the Beavers were going to Spokane. Our paper the next morning, the Oregonian, ran a picture of me sitting in empty Civic Stadium, a writer without a beat in a stadium without a tenant. A reader wrote and said, "You still have work?" We had no idea what that work was going to be. But a few months later, there were rumors that something was going to happen. A Hollywood actor was coming to town who had been the deputy sheriff on Bonanza, Bing Russell. I'd watched Bonanza, but I knew Little Joe and Haas and all those guys, but I never even knew they had a deputy sheriff. He was bringing his baseball-playing son named Kurt, who had been a Hollywood boy actor who I'd never heard of. They were bringing in a manager whose biggest credential was that he'd gotten kicked out of baseball for spitting on an umpire, and he was a bit actor in Hollywood and did commercials. They were going to be playing in the Class A, lowest rung of baseball league, the shortest season, with a bunch of players nobody had ever heard of, going against the elite youngsters of the land. And we're thinking, what? Are we even going to cover this? So they opened on the road. They won like their first 6 out of 7. There was a pitcher from Oregon College of Education named Gene Lanthorn, who'd been cut by the Giants, pitched a no-hitter. And we decided, well, let's give it a shot and see what they've got. So we went out, and we were mostly interested, is anybody going to come? In the first game, there were more people that showed up than had been at any Beaver game in years. People who were introduced to Reggie Thomas, who ran the bases with more speed and more ferociousness probably than anyone in history. He could score from first base on a base hit to right field. Not because he was that fast, but because he was that bold and nobody could figure out, what, is he really doing this? He could score from second base on a routine fly ball to center field, where you're just supposed to tag up and maybe it'll be a close play at third. So I think the most important thing that happened was the editors at the Journal and the Oregonian decided, let's have some fun with this and give it some space. Normally, a Class A single-season independent baseball team might have merited a paragraph or a score. But there really wasn't much going on. The Buckaroos were on their way out. The Blazers were in the very beginning of their expansion. And they really, I guess, needed something to put on their pages. So they said, have fun. So about a month into the season, they're winning. These nobodies are beating the bonus babies. There's a big doubleheader coming into town. It's going to be for first place. Portland hasn't been in first place in any kind of baseball season in years. And there's disaster. They finally found a catcher that they're really comfortable with named Ron Webb, who was from Hillsboro. And Ron Webb has got to do National Guard duty on the weekend. It starts, his 2 weeks start on the weekend. And Robinson, the manager, tells me, what do we do? So I get back to the office and I have an idea. I'm going to do something that, I don't know, maybe I did something a Maverick thing that a Maverick would do. I decided instead of a game story, they had just won their 4th straight, I'm going to write a letter to Tom McCall. I'm going to plead that and introduce what the Mavericks have meant to Portland in their month that they've been here. They have a chance to get into first place. They have a catcher that they need, and wouldn't he be more valuable to the community playing in the doubleheader than taking roll call at the National Guard? So when I proposed this to the editors, they looked at me like, what? Nobody's ever done anything like this before. But sure, let's do it. I knew McCall was in town because he was having prostate surgery. So I wrote the letter, Dear Tom McCall. They ran it on page 1 with a headline that says, the Mavs need your help, Governor. The next morning, I'm at home, and the phone rings. I tell my wife, well, that's probably the governor. I pick it up and say hello, and he says, Nick, this is Tom McCall. He says, I got your mail this morning. He says, I'm the commander-in-chief, aren't I? And I told him, well, I guess so. And he says, I'll do what I can. And he's calling from his hospital bed. That night, Ron shows up at the ballpark, totally befuddled. He has no idea why he's there. He said, they just called me and said, I have a weekend pass. And in my mind, the legendary Tom McCall just went up another notch higher. On the field, people were breaking records coming. And the next year, Bing actually had time to do a major tryout. People came from, I had the Oregonian writer who was also the correspondent for the Sporting News, which was the baseball Bible newspaper in those days. And we wrote about the tryout in the Sporting News, and they came from all over the country. Some drove, some flew, some came in on their motorcycles, some hitchhiked. A guy showed up and said he was a left-handed catcher. And I said, well, that's never heard of a left-handed catcher before, but even more strange is you've got a left-handed catcher's glove. Where'd you get that? And he looks at me and he says, a priest gave it to me. Okay, this might be the best story I'm ever going to have from the Mavericks. Bing hired Frank, no rules Peters. And it became a sports writer's dream. Things kept happening. They broke tradition. They had red, white, and blue bases. They would sing Happy Trails to the old Roy Rogers song, Happy Trails to You Until We Meet Again, after they beat a team. The beginning of the game, they started singing the national anthem. They broke barriers. They hired the first woman general manager in baseball history, who's here tonight, Lanny Moss. You stand, Lanny. They hired the first Japanese-American general manager, John Yashiwara, who can't be here tonight. And the stories, they had this bus. Fortunately, we were never allowed to go on the road with them, or I might not be here tonight. But this bus had a loudspeaker in it. And when they drive through town, I'll give you a PG version of what they would say is, hide the women and children, the Mavericks are coming. Attendance on the road, wherever they went, mushroomed. The villains were in town. When they came home, they were the heroes. The Mavericks were back. The bus broke down one time in the desert in eastern Oregon. They all hitchhiked to Boise. You imagine a whole team hitchhiking and getting to Boise and playing a game. You all probably know about Peters stealing a first base. How can you steal first base? Well, he picked it up and he took it to his hotel room because he was mad at the umpire. He was looking for something to keep the players interested as the season was ending one year. And they were on the road, and he decided he'd take his 9 players, he'd rotate them position by position every inning, with the pitcher winding up pitching in the last inning. They came from behind to get ahead in the last inning. the real pitcher, pitched the last inning, got the win, and became the most winning pitcher in the Northwest League that year, Jim Emery, and he's here tonight. As long as I'm doing this, there's a bunch of Mavericks here tonight. Why don't all the Mavericks stand up? All the Mavericks that are here tonight. But it was, again, the fans that were the real story. And as I was writing about it in the Sporting News, I got a call from Joe Garagiola, who he was a former Major League catcher, and he had his own program on NBC, The Baseball World of Joe Garagiola, and he wanted to come out and see what was going on. He came out, he found out so much that he had to do 2 shows, which he'd never done before. That led to a guy named Jim Boughton seeing Joe's show and calling and saying he'd been banned from baseball. He wanted to get back in it. He wanted to know if there would be a chance for him to play here. And I put him in touch with Bing, and he came out, and the rest is history. The stands kept filling and filling. They invented the sweep. When you sweep in baseball, it means you've maybe played a 3-game series and you've won all 3. Well, somebody got the idea, let's bring out a broom when we win and we sweep. And they'd sweep at the top of the dugout, which would really miff the opposing team. And everybody got behind it, and one day somebody, after a sweep, put kerosene on the broom and lit it. Now you've got a guy running around with a torch, basically, with the whole team following and the management following him. They had a dog. The dog was following him. The fans were following him. And as Boughton said, if you'd have just walked into that stadium, you'd think you'd have walked into an asylum. I called this Maverick Mania. And as been said before, too, I think this really did lit the flame in a dead sports town. The Timbers came a couple of years later and became Soccer City almost overnight. The Blazers finally got a healthy Bill Walton and got Maurice Lucas out of the ABA draft. And all of a sudden, people started following them as they made their magic run to win the championship. And I wasn't covering them that year, but the Mavericks that year, but I was covering the Blazers and the championship. And when we would come in after a playoff game, and you couldn't see from the time you got off of the plane to where you would pick up your luggage with the thousands of people that had showed up. I called that Blazer Mania after Maverick Mania. But by then, the Mavericks had had so much success that the Pacific Coast League wanted to come back. They offered him a trifle, and the legendary attorney Jack Faust, who is here tonight, represented him in arbitration, and they set an all-time record for earning enough money, for paying to get out of town, and the Beavers could come back. Covering it, it was the sports writer's dream. Wheels and I were covering it, and I'd scoop him one day, he'd scoop me the next day, and we'd find out 3 more things that happened, and we kept racing on, trying to keep up with it all. Looking back on it, I was really, really fortunate during the years I was writing sports. I was able to cover the small colleges when the great Ad Rutschman was at Linfield. Dwight and I covered Jack Avina's really good University of Portland teams. Larry, I was with you at Portland State when Freeman was playing. I got to cover the Blazers championship, the Timbers when they left. I was the first Pac-10 beat writer for the Oregonian. I did Final Fours, bowls, all just a great experience, but there was nothing like covering the Portland Mavericks. It was magic.
Nick, that's a good place to stop, because I want to bring everybody up here to get that plate, and then they can fight over who ends up with it.
Food fight.
So that's what we're going to do. I want to tell everybody, too, don't worry about paying for parking. Don't worry about it. The gates should be open. Don't just drive out. You're fine. I picked up the tab. No, I didn't pick up the tab, but it's free parking, so feel free to drive out. So the Mavs, can we get you up here? And if you want to take pictures, get somebody to take your picture while you're all up here. It'll be great.
The 42nd Oregon Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony is supported by Oregon Sports Action, Sunset Athletic Club, Sport Oregon, the McTarnahan Family Trust, and Willamette Valley Track and Field.